Hey, I'm Jusko from ProbableMoney.com, and in this video we are going to look at the Apple Card approval odds. What are your chances of being approved for the Apple Card at different credit score levels? Before we do it, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So this is going to be the first in what I'm hoping is going to be sort of a series of a little more like bite-sized videos where we look specifically at the approval odds, the chances of being approved for different credit cards. We often do this in our longer review videos, but sometimes it gets a little lost and everyone always wants to know this. So the first card we're going to look at, the Apple Card. Now the Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs, and like a lot of credit card issuers, Goldman Sachs is not really telling us what credit score is going to get you approved and what's not, because the approval process is not strictly about your credit score. And so there are other factors that can come into play, how long your credit history is, how much debt you have, etc., etc. That said, we can glean some things both from the information that Apple and Goldman Sachs provide, and then also from approvals and declines that people have talked about on various online credit card forums. So the first thing I would say about the Apple Card is it is one of the easier credit cards to be approved for on the market. And in fact, some people that don't even have a credit history have been approved for the Apple Card as their first card. Now that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get approved. Sometimes if you have a higher income, it might increase your chances, and again, other factors as well. So we're going to look at the actual credit score sort of range and give you some odds of approval based on those. We'll start from the high end. If you have a credit score of 750 or above, your chances of being approved for the Apple Card extremely good, probably 90 to 95%. The only people that are going to get turned down here are people that maybe have a high credit score but have something really recent that is bad on their credit report, like maybe you recently maxed out a credit card or there was some other thing that somehow gave them pause to think about you. But for most people, if you're over 750, Apple Card, Goldman Sachs, they're going to approve you. Credit scores between 700 and 750, your odds of approval still pretty high. I'm going to peg them at 75 to 80%, especially if you have more than 1 year of credit history on your credit report. Sometimes in the 700 to 750 range, especially right around 700, sometimes you can have a credit score that is that high with very little on your credit report. And so that's something that maybe if you were right around there, you still could get declined for this card. But most people, if you're over 700, you're getting in. Now, if your credit score is between 650 and 700, this is where you start to get into a little bit more of a gray area, but I think your approval odds are still better than 50-50 with Apple, and probably better than they would be with a lot of other credit cards on the market, especially from a bigger issuer, a more popular card like the Apple Card is. So I'm going to peg the odds here at around 60 to 65% your odds of being approved, especially again if you have a full year of credit history under your belt and you don't have anything particularly bad sitting on your credit report, in particular any late payments that have gone over 30 days. So sometimes you can have a credit score that is a little bit lower if you don't have a lot of credit history, and maybe if you have a little bit too much debt on one of your credit cards. But for most people, if you're in this position, you still got a pretty decent shot. Now, if your credit score is between 600 and 650, and I have to say a 600 credit score is a lot worse than a 650 credit score, but we're going to use that as a range. If you're in that range, things are a little dicey, but Apple and Goldman Sachs, on their page where they talk about potential approvals for this card, they sort of use 600 as the lower limit, the lower bound where potentially someone could still get approved. Now, I would tell you, I think at 600, your chances of approval probably 25%. Probably most people still getting turned away at 600, but as you go up between 600 and 650, maybe give yourself a point or 3/4 of a point in the percentage that your approval odds are going to go up with every point on your credit score. So obviously a 648 credit score is going to have a lot better chance than a 600 credit score. But even if you're at the bottom of that range, sitting there at 600 or thereabouts, not all hope is lost, because Apple and Goldman Sachs have what they call the Path to Apple Card program. And what that is when you get declined, some people are going to get invited into this Path to Apple Card program, where Apple and Goldman Sachs essentially give you sort of a personalized program of things they would like to see you do in order to feel better about you and potentially give you an Apple Card down the road. So if they decline you and they invite you in and you accept, then they're going to say, okay, well, here's what we want to see from you. First off, you got to make all your payments on time for, X number of months. But even more than that, they usually are going to want to see you get your debt down. If you have any late payments, especially in the recent past that haven't been dealt with, they're going to want to see those get paid off, and then they're going to come back to you. It's not clear exactly how many months, but probably 3 months at least before they would potentially offer you the ability to apply again. But that's kind of what they're trying to get you. They're trying to get you to a place where they would say, okay, you've kind of done what we asked. Now you can apply for the card again. And usually what that means is you're going to be approved for the card. Otherwise, it would be pointless to have the program in the first place. So those are the odds as I see them. If you have applied for the Apple Card and either been approved or declined, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below as to how my scores stack up in terms of your experience. Now, one last point I want to make here is that when the Apple Card first came out, Goldman Sachs in the materials around the card were saying that they were only using TransUnion as the credit bureau that they were pulling your credit report from in order to make their decision on your application. And TransUnion obviously is still hugely important because they talk about TransUnion and the FICO Score 9 in particular in their materials, and they also say that your TransUnion credit report should be unfrozen so that they have access to it. But they also now talk about other credit bureaus potentially that they would pull from, and I don't know if that means that Equifax and Experian are getting some action as well, or whether they are using some of these sort of alternative credit bureaus out there that maybe they would look at your utility bill payments or mobile phone payments, that kind of stuff, some alternative data to know more about you, especially if you have little to no credit history. Questions, comments, thoughts on this format of zeroing in on credit card approval odds? I'd love to hear it all in that comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you don't want to go to the website or you don't want to leave a comment below, I would suggest you watch this video.